So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is making a splash, but in a very different way than you might expect. If you don't know much about RFK Jr., he's the son of Robert F. Kennedy, who was the Attorney General for his brother, John F. Kennedy, and he was a senator before that. Robert F. Kennedy is a very strange politician who has different views than where you would expect a Democrat to be. And he's kind of all over the map. But the most strange, the most bizarre thing is his stance on Ukraine. So this article came out today. RFK Jr. replaces Trump as Russia's favorite candidate. Like, wrap your mind around that. He is now Russia's favorite candidate. Here's the article. It's in Newsweek. I'm not making it up. It's not Fox News. Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy is being amplified by Russian state media over Donald Trump because he is echoing its narratives on the war in Ukraine. An expert in Russian disinformation has told Newsweek. Now let's go out to RT and see what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is actually saying that's being amplified. Kennedy accuses Biden of preparing for war with Russia. How about this? Kennedy decries weaponization of FBI. U.S. presidential candidate condemns Kremlin drone attack, says Robert F. Kennedy. Kennedy shares opinion on key U.S. mistake with Russia. Okay, they're going to love this, and they're eating it up. Just a couple more. Presidential candidate vows to unwind the U.S. empire, and RFK Jr. claims Ukraine sustaining huge losses. Of course they're going to replay that. They're going to magnify, amplify, and spread their propaganda using his words. Let's keep going and look a little bit more at this Newsweek article. With Russia's invasion of Ukraine bogged down after nearly 17 months of fighting, Moscow is hoping that the 2024 U.S. presidential election could lead to American support for Kyiv being curtailed or even ended entirely. Well, how would you get to that? So it said just before that Kennedy is pretty much directly sharing Russian propaganda about the conflict, as opposed to Trump, in contrast to Trump, who is primarily focused on looking like a negotiator. So Trump isn't just trying to repeat Russian talking points. He's trying to say, I have this deal, I can make a deal with anyone, and I can talk to Putin and sit down and get this right. He made his bones on, what was the book? The Art of the Deal, right? That's how Trump is. He's more pro-Russia. RFK Jr. is more pro-Russia than Trump. Now, if you're Russia, what you want is to have the Democrat and the Republican become pro-Russia before the general election, and then it doesn't matter who wins because you won. If they have either Kennedy or Trump as president, they know that support to Ukraine is probably going to be decreased and that overall U.S. and NATO support for the war is probably going to be pretty limited as well. I do think that in terms of propaganda, disinformation, and state media generally, there's been a lot of amplification of RFK recently just because he's pretty much sharing explicit Russian narratives. Now, if you want to know who the good guys are, whoever the Russians are amplifying is probably not that guy. But don't trust me. Listen to what RFK had to say himself. This is RFK on the Jimmy Dore Show.
Philosopher said that the U.S. strategy should be to suck Russia into a series of wars in little countries where we can then exhaust them. Lloyd Austin, who is President Biden's defense secretary, in April 2022 said, our purpose for being in the Ukraine is to degrade the Russian army, to exhaust it and degrade its capacity to fight anywhere in the world. Well, that is the opposite of a humanitarian mission. That is a war of attrition, and that's what it's turned out to be. We have now turned Ukraine into an abattoir.
Wait a minute. Hold on. An abattoir? I'm not sure what that is. I think he means an avatar, but before he says what he's about to say there, it can be a humanitarian mission while you degrade your enemy. That can happen simultaneously. So there's not really a problem there, but listen to what he says next.
350,000 young Ukrainians, they are lying about how many people.
Where's he getting that number from? That's not a number that the Ukrainians are putting out. It's not a number that the US or UK is putting out. Yeah, but it's a number that the Russians are going to continue to repeat. Listen more about the Russian to Ukrainian math that he puts out. And this was about a month ago that he said this.
have died. They're concealing it from us. They're concealing it from the Pentagon is concealing it from the American people. The Ukraine is concealing it from them people, but 350,000 people. Russians are killing Ukrainians at a rate at a ratio of 7-1.
7-1.
And we have.
This was a month ago. The 7-1 figure came out 3 months or 4 months before that, where and that was discarded because that was the manipulated, the leaked papers that were manipulated. That's where we got the 7-1 ratio. And he's repeating that. And he's a serious presidential candidate. Now, I don't think that RFK Jr. is going to get any real traction. His ideas are all over the map, and you generally have to kind of stick with most of your party's concerns if you're hoping to get elected. So he's now in a very, very, very minority candidate compared to Biden. I don't think he'll get anywhere near the traction he needs to win. But if the Kremlin is amplifying him, that tells you everything that you need to know about RFK Jr. All right. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the likes, shares, subscribes, coffees. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.